Hi, everybody. Welcome to the live training session for the 30th of December. It's the last one of the year. And let me see here. I'll get myself on the video. Okay. So today, I was going to talk about writing because somebody had written to me saying that they were wanting to prepare for their IELTS exam and they needed a little bit of help with technical writing and things like that. But I'm going to save that for another week. I thought that right now it might be more important to focus on some speaking stuff. And then next week, as Birgit had suggested, we're going to do sort of like more planning or like how to create a study plan so that you guys don't feel like, oh my God, I don't know where to start, which is really, really common between intermediate and advanced. And maybe what I'll do is I'll just put the bug in your mind for this week so that you can be prepared for next week and really know what to think about and where to start. But essentially with knowing what you want to focus on or the direction that you need to go with English, instead of trying to focus on everything all at the same time, which is what we all want to do all the time. I want to learn this, I want to learn that. Everything about my English sucks, I need to improve it all. Okay.
Right.
We go around and around and around and we don't actually get anything done. So my recommendation is to try to find one or two things out of the long list of improvements you'd like to have and focus on those things first and really do, oh, hang on. Amy, is it? Yeah, I can mute all the participants. Hang on. I have to turn you guys. Oh my gosh. Okay, hold on. And we have Alberto here, and we have Emily too. Oh, we have everybody, the whole gang. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so one sec here. And participants. Okay, you're all on mute. Here we go. Okay. And so anyway, when you're thinking about what you need to focus on or how to improve, it's really, really important to look at your weakest skill, what you think is the thing that is maybe the best word would be annoying you the most or frustrating you the most, and put a little bit more attention into that task or that skill and helping to develop it over a little period of time until you see some improvement, and then you can kind of move on to something else. Because if you do like a little bit of this and a little bit of that, you'll see very, very little improvement overall, and it can leave you feeling a little bit frustrated. So that'll kind of be the theme of next week, and trying to determine how we can come up with a study plan that helps us to achieve our goals and to not feel so overwhelmed and navigate our way up to fluency. But for today, I'm going to focus on the accent, tone, and rhythm of English. And I did do one lesson about this and have written a pretty good blog article. So in the speaking course, it's lesson 5 mostly that talks about shadowing. And the blog article, I have the link in the page related to this lesson that you can also read. But I am going to go a little bit more in depth with this topic today and to show you some different things related to it and some cool activities. One of them is singing, so I hope you all like karaoke, and you may have to hear me sing. I'm really gonna try to avoid it, but we'll see what happens. Depends if I back myself into the corner of having to mock the song or not. So I'm just gonna share my screen here. There we go. Okay, can you see the screen? Give me a thumbs up if you can. Yeah? Okay, perfect. So, okay, great. Everyone can see it. So here with accent reduction, I know that accent is a thing that a lot of people are really, really concerned about. It's almost like we're hypersensitive to our accent. Oh, I don't sound like a native speaker. I'm not happy with it. I wish I could just speak like American English properly and perfectly. What's wrong with me? And there's been some studies that have said if you're brought up in a language before the age of 14, you'll develop a near native like or totally native accent. But as adults, we unfortunately don't have that brain development or whatever, so we're stuck with a little bit of an accent. And for me personally, I want to have a good accent, but my purpose is communication. My number one goal is communication. And a more important part of communication is developing the tone and rhythm of English, because if you don't have that tone and rhythm, it can be really difficult for a native speaker to understand you. So even more important than having a good accent is making sure that you can be understood first. And most of you are able to be understood, which is really, really good. But in the words, for example, where you say something and I'm like looking at you like, what did you just say? It's like the words hit my ears and my brain can't recognize what you're saying because the emphasis is probably on the wrong part of the word. There might be a tiny bit of a change with the vowel, the sound of the vowel or something like that, and the tone of the word might be different, which makes it difficult for me as a native speaker to hear every single word that you're saying. And it's the usually the tone and rhythm that has more of an impact than your actual accent. Okay, so what I decided a long time ago with Spanish was I wanted to speak well, but I wasn't going to be too worried about being perfect. You know, I'm not worried if I go into a coffee shop, like obviously I don't look like a Latino. So when I go into the coffee shop, I think people expect me to maybe speak Spanish. And when I speak well, it's like, oh, she speaks Spanish well. But they can hear my American English accent. And at first I thought that was maybe like an ugly thing, or, oh, that doesn't sound really, really well. I don't want to be like I'm speaking almost like a not like a dirty Spanish, but like, you know, like it's not a clean accent or something. And the truth is, in English, when I hear different accents, I really like it. And I hear someone's accent and it's almost like they have a story to tell. I know that they're not from Canada or the United States, and sometimes I can identify the accent and I'm like, oh, you must be from Germany. Oh, you must be from China or something like that, you know. But I feel like with the accent, it is kind of a little bit of your identity, and it's not something to be embarrassed about. It's something to be more like, yeah, I'm from Canada, I speak Spanish, you know, and that's it. So I think coming to this acceptance with your accent is a really big step, and it can help you. You know, we all strive to have an excellent accent, but to take the shame out of not having a perfect accent is really, really important. So right here, I've got the first step that you need to work on is just to develop an understandable accent for native speakers. And then the next stop or the next step is where you're trying to refine or reduce your accent, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play this video from this lady, Patty Kennedy. And if you guys have went through the lesson number 5 in the speaking course, I'm sure you've seen it, but I really, really like this video. And every time I watch it, it almost like re-inspires me about accents and what they are and things. So I'm going to play it for you guys just right now. And I just have to confirm that you can hear it. So I'm going to play like a little bit, and I need a thumbs up as soon as you can hear it, okay?
You know, Will Shakespeare was right. All the world's a stage, and you are always judged.
Can you hear that or no? Yes? Yeah? Okay, good. I'm gonna see if I can get the volume all the way up everywhere. take the headphones off my ears so I don't blow my ears out. Okay, here we go. So we've got subtitles on here. And this is an expert lady. She helps with accent reduction, and she really knows what she's talking about. So here we go.
You know, Will Shakespeare was right. All the world's a stage. And you are always judged by the way you perform. Especially in business, you've got to be able to learn how to articulate your message. There are 3 points that are crucial to reducing your accent if you want to be presenting in English. And the first one kind of blows people out of the water. They've been told for years, could you please speak more slowly because I can't understand your accent. And then I come along and I say, but guess what, people? Your accent isn't your problem. Let's take Jackie Chan. As soon as that man opens his mouth, you hear his mother tongue. And yet we understand him all the time, and he makes tons of money performing in American movies. Which takes us to the second point. The whole thing in accent reduction is to hear the music in the language. Because it isn't your accent that's the problem. It's that you're trying to speak my language in the rhythm pattern of your language, and I can't understand you. English is a beat-driven language. Everything we say can be drummed out. You've got to train your ear to hear the different musical notes, as well as how the beats, the rhythms. Practice this way, and in no time you'll be speaking in the same kind of melody as does Jackie Chan. The third point, particularly in English, and particularly in North American English, we do not speak one word at a time. No. We speak in sound units. Where's Bob? Bob is on the phone. We don't ever speak word by word. So I always say to accent reduction clients, everything that you have learned so far about the English language, you have learned with your eyes through textbooks. But when you're learning to speak the language, get rid of all of that, because you don't want to see. You don't want to read, you want to hear. Because you see and read one word at a time, but we don't speak that way. The only way you can develop an ear is to listen to the way in which native speakers of any language are speaking and begin to imitate. One thing that people can do right now is stop and start this video as you're listening to it and imitate everything I'm saying, because I'm speaking in standard North American rhythm patterns. Practice the music, and when you feel you've mastered that, go on to the next little phrase. When you imitate me, exaggerate it. Make the sounds big, because you want to train the organs of articulation, we call them. You want to train the tongue, the cheeks, the lips, the whole mouth, how to help you make these sound units. So exaggerate. Tongue twisters. You can find tongue twisters everywhere on the internet. And when you say these tongue twisters, say them as if they mean something. Say, she sells seashells by the seashore. And say it with rhythm. It's more important that you have the up and down of the language than it is saying it quickly. The most important thing is just keep practicing. That's how we learned our mother tongues. Our mother held us, we heard her. And as we got old enough, and after we had heard her, and after we had developed the organs of articulation, we began to imitate her. So there's no shortcut. There's no speak like a native speaker in 28 days, and if someone tries to sell you that package, it won't work. But mark my words, as soon as you start to practice these rhythms, you will begin to notice your accent is diminishing.
Okay, so just going to close that video there, and now I've got to figure out how to turn on everybody's audio. 1 second. Oh my God, I don't even know how to use this program. Okay, hang on, let me stop that. There we go.
At my unmute.
There we are. We're unmuted now, I think.
Oh my God, great.
Oh, we've got Mohammed has to be activated. Yeah. Okay. So, what did you guys think? Like, let's start with Alberto, for example. You're at the top of my list here. So, Alberto,
Okay.
what did you think when you were watching that video?
Okay. I hear in the past that the listening is one of the key for get better in the rhythm and the tones. Yeah, a guy, I don't remember his name, he said, he's a teacher, of course, teacher of English, native speaker. He said the first thing we need to do is listening without speaking, just listening like a little kid, or newborn kid. There's just listening. When he start to talk, it's it's a blow because you hear a baby around maybe 2 years
Mm-hmm.
is speaking a lot because he was just listening.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the tongue twister is another good thing, but for me it's very difficult, the tongue twister, even in Spanish.
That's the point. And in English, it makes you say bad words. I think that's the point. Like the seashell one always ends up in someone saying shit. Like you always.
That's correct.
That's kind of the point. So it's they make you swear.
Yes.
Yeah.
In my case, like I don't feel old, but I starting, like a teenager learning English in the States. But after that, I stopped to practicing or something. I never back in the 80s, 90s to the States on summers. This was frustrating for me because now I'm trying to learn again. I'm feeling like I don't have the feeling, maybe the feeling of something. But the other thing is practicing, but my goal, like you say, is communication.
Mhm.
Maybe if I don't have the tone of the reading, they think, you're not a native speaker. Of course, I'm not a native speaker. I would like
That's
to,
not my goal.
to be, but my goal is communication. If I'm in the States or something, or any place, I'm trying to communication to asking for something in a store, in a airlines front desk or something.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, perfect. And let's see, who else can I pick on? Okay, we've got Birgit. She's second on my list here. So, okay, if you can just give us a short little, what was your first impression when you watched that video? How did you feel?
A short thing is always difficult for me, as you know, maybe. So I watched this video maybe a year ago and I thought it was really great. But I wanted to say something about something what Alberto said.
Sure.
I know that, oh my God, I lost track of my thought.
Oops. Yeah.
I know that, for example, I had an language exchange partner and he told me that he had a visitor every year for weeks or months because this woman wanted to find some work in the US, and after 7 years living there for weeks and months, she wasn't able to stay there because her English wasn't good enough. And so I said, oh my God, what's going wrong there? Can we do that? I know that the most important thing is to be understood, and that's fine, but maybe people have different goals. So, and I think you can say Smith, Alberto, Antonio, or Ivan, or even you can say, I cannot understand you, but actually most of the people tell me I can understand you very well. But I'm happy about that, of course, but I really don't want to sound like an English learner, or that's okay maybe, but I don't want that people say, you are from country blah, 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 and I can hear that. Because I know that the German accent, for me, it's really terrible. So, and I want to get rid of this.
Okay,
for what
so
reason ever.
And I would say probably reducing your accent and having enough fluency to at least have someone say this, you're proficient in the language. There's no doubt you're fluent. You are from somewhere in Europe, not sure where. but you're from somewhere
Yeah,
in Europe,
that would be
right?
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So set that as your goal, because I mean, once you reach that, okay, fine, go crazy trying to get to that final level if it's what you really want and it's your goal. But trying to set that bar right now is like, no, step one, you understood. Step two, try to reduce your accent. Step three,
ਉਹ
try to be
ਹੈਗਾ
perfect.
ਲੈਕਚਰ ਜਿਹਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਵਾ ਉਹ ਵੇਖਣਾ
Okay. So I'm going to just silence the microphones again. Going back to the presentation. Okay. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to share this. Oh, there's my schedule again. How do I get here? Wrong one. Okay. There we go. Okay, so we've got, so we watched that. So the three things that Patty had mentioned in the video that was really, really interesting and what I really liked was her point about your accent not being the problem and pointing out Jackie Chan. Another one that is a really, really famous actor is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay, and he has his Austrian accent, and he was the governor of California. Everyone understands him. He's fine. He speaks fluent English. You can tell he's not speaking or wasn't brought up in the United States, but it doesn't matter. You can understand him, and that's the really, really important thing. The fact that the language has a rhythm, and one of my favorite lines was that the reason why I can't understand you is because you're speaking the rhythm and pattern or whatever it was of your language in my language, and that's why I can't understand you. Okay, so as soon as you can mimic the rhythms and try to I don't know, it's like develop an understanding in your mind for how it is, which can only come through practice, then you're going to start being understood a lot easier, and that's important. And speaking in sound units, the Where's Bob, that was a perfect example. And today for the activity, I actually have something that really works on speaking in sound units, and it's a song that's quite fast, and it's impossible to sing without combining the sounds. So anyway, so the actionable advice from this video and how to apply it to the lessons that we have at Real English Conversations. Okay, imitate native speakers in videos or audio. Like she said, rewind this video, imitate me right now. Okay, well, obviously on our website, you guys know we have tons of conversation lessons, and you know, if you work hard enough, you can sound just like Amy and Curtis, which is a little bit scary, but hopefully you know can at least hear the tone and rhythm and the way that we're speaking, and by doing a little bit of shadowing work with our conversations, it can help to program your mind a little bit and to help you just be able to I don't know, it's like a subconscious thing. You can't consciously think about the tone or the rhythm of the language. It comes from practice, and it becomes second nature. So, you know, it's not going to happen with 15 minutes of practice. It's more like maybe dedicating 15 minutes twice a week till you're happy with your results. You know, it's not something that you need to do constantly unless it's maybe the big pain point in your English right now. You're like, I hate my accent. I hate my accent. Okay, do more work on it. But I usually suggest to people like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, once or twice a week. Just be consistent with the work and don't forget about that type of activity if your accent is important to you to improve. And so here with the conversation lessons, we actually have some slower recordings that I have added to the beginner area. So if you're more of an intermediate level learner, these are going to be easier for you to start to imitate. However, with the beginner recordings, I am not speaking naturally. I am separating the words. They are slower, and it's so that the beginner learner can start to train their ears to recognize the words being said. So if you guys are not intermediate, or you're finding that you are able to mimic the normal conversations, I recommend that at least, because you'll be getting more of those, the chunks of sound that are together, the words that we naturally join together in the conversations where we're speaking normally. And if you're really, really advanced and you feel like, oh man, Amy and Curtis speak so slow, which we do, but if you're feeling like that, you can start to imitate things that are more difficult, like movie clips, podcasts that are not for English learners, and interviews. So this is more of an upper advanced type of audio that you can mimic in the same way. And so she says, exaggerate the pronunciation and tone. And I think that is for people that tend to speak really flat in their communication. But in English, something that I've realized recently is we usually put more stress on the words that are more important in the sentence. So if it's, I went to the bank yesterday, it's I went to is really fast. The bank yesterday. I put more stress on those words. And I think it's something interesting to observe, because it's not always the case. As the sentence changes, the stress in the sentence, or the word that I put more emphasis on, is going to change depending on what I'm talking about. But it'll be an interesting activity later when you're listening to one of our conversations. Maybe just have a pen and paper and take one or two sentences and just underline the words that you think I'm putting more emphasis on when I'm speaking. And I think that has a lot to do with the tone and rhythm of English, is kind of more stress on the important words, which I don't think about at all when I'm speaking. It just happens naturally. Tongue twisters, of course, are always a challenge, and it's almost like you're training your pronunciation, forcing your tongue and mouth to do things that it doesn't want to do. I really recommend just doing a tongue twister slowly, one word at a time, and just gradually increasing the speed. And like it's just training. It's work and training for trying to pronounce things faster and better. And then shadowing songs. Okay, so this is the karaoke one that I'm talking about. I really think that shadowing songs is interesting, and it's something that I feel really, really helped me to learn the blending of words. So when I was trying to learn a song, it was this one part of a song, and the guy was singing really, really fast. Was kind of like rapping a little bit, and I couldn't do it. It didn't matter how fast I said the words. I couldn't do it, and I knew something was off. I was adding an extra syllable where there shouldn't have been a syllable, and it was because the two words had been joined together in some sort of way. So I used my favorite program, Audacity, of course, because I'm obsessed with that program, and I put the song in, and I isolated that one part, and I slowed it down like 50%, and I listened to it, and I'm like, he's not saying two words. It's coming out as one syllable. And as soon as I kind of like typed out my own version of what I was hearing, and then I played the song again slower, and I started to sing along. It was like, oh, hey, I can sing that song now. And I've only done that with a few songs, but I can say that it helped me immensely with the ability to mash words together and understanding why the sounds are connected. I can't consciously explain to you why it's easier to say certain things in a certain way, but I think it's just practice. And, songs are a great way to do that, because they're singing to not necessarily the song of a conversation, but they're singing to a particular song with a particular beat, and they have to say a certain amount of words within a certain amount of time, plus force their voice up and down as they're singing. So there's a lot going on, and if you can learn a song, or just even the choruses of your favorite songs, and doing a lot of them, it can be a fun activity and really, really helpful for your accent. So I'm not going to go over these things today, but I always post the link to this document with the training session. And if you guys want to do some shadowing activities, these are kind of the quick links to be able to find them. So this one here is actually from the pre-intermediate course. And what I did to try to make it easy for these pre-intermediate students and not have to worry about using Audacity and stuff, but I wanted them to be able to just be able to jump in and start shadowing. So this here, I did a very easy lesson summary about each of the conversations that they're studying in this course. And I took some small samples, like in this conversation, Amy and Curtis discuss the largest waterfall in the world, Niagara Falls. And what you can do is literally just hit this button, read here, and your goal is to try to read, listen, and speak all at the same time. When you listen the first time, it's just to learn how I'm saying it. And then the second time, you're trying to say it at the same time and really identifying where the differences are. Am I saying the tone up where Amy is saying it down? Okay, yeah, something's wrong, okay? And you're practicing and practicing and practicing until you say it and you're like, man, I sound like a native speaker. Yes, okay? That's the point that you know that you've got the activity down, and that's your goal. So it's like you need to practice, practice, practice again and again and again until you finally feel like, yeah, I said that really, really well. You might still have a tiny bit of your accent, but you'll have the tone and rhythm of English, and your accent will be significantly better. Something that's really, really interesting, if you do know how to use Audacity, which is this program here. So I got my song queued up. But what I would do, for example, is I would push play, like I'd have this audio file or one of our conversations, whatever, I'd have it in here. And I would, I think when you push record, it actually records your voice speaking and it plays the audio at the same time. So it's really, really cool. After you've practiced a couple of times with trying to say this thing and you're like, yeah, I think I got it. Okay. So you can put it in here and you can hit record and you're recording your voice as you're listening to it. And afterward, you can just, you can delete the track or cut and paste it and move it over or something like that. And you can listen to yourself speaking. And it's really, really cool because when you hear yourself speaking, you're like, wow, I actually sound really, really good. And it's more of a confidence booster that with practice, you can develop these same habits, and it is possible for you to speak in that way. You just have to have the cue and to be able to hear the audio being said correctly, practicing a few times. So with shadowing, this activity takes forever. Like it is, you to do one sentence, you're working on it for 3 or 4 minutes or something. So the goal is never to do a certain amount of audio. The goal is the amount of time that you're trying to mimic it. So set a time, like I'm going to do this for 20 minutes. I'm going to do this for half an hour, and that's it. If you get through 4 sentences, fine. If you get through half the conversation, fine. You know, just the goal is practice focusing on the pronunciation. And if you find that the audio is too fast, always slow it down, because otherwise you're just training yourself to speak really fast with bad pronunciation, which is one of the biggest mistakes that I see with this activity. This is an activity for pronunciation. You should be focusing on how it's said, not on the speed. And as you become a better speaker, the words fly out of your mouth easier. Fine, you can do it a little bit faster. But for now, slower is better. Always speaking with the best pronunciation you can is always the number one objective, because you want to be understood. And it's the practice that makes you speak faster. So it's pronunciation first, always. So anyway, with this here, you guys can do all of these. These ones start out like mimicking the slow controlled summary. And then these ones are actually sections from the original conversation. So I've got easy and then harder, and you can practice both of those. And then of course here, this one from the course, lesson 5, is talking all about slow shadowing, and it goes into more detail about what I just talked about. But it also shows you how to get Audacity and how to use it properly. And for those of you that have never used Audacity and you're like, oh my God, this program is like really, really complicated, I'm super overwhelmed, you can go here to our Real English Conversation lessons. This is where the listening part is here, how to improve your listening. And in this part here, I think it's this one, the missing sounds and the listening training for movies. These ones go into a lot of detail step by step of how to use Audacity for listening training, but it's the same functionality for doing shadowing. You need to be able to isolate a section of audio, slow it down, and replay it over and over and over really, really quickly. So now we're going to go here. So one more thing to mention, maybe after you've done a bit of work with shadowing and you're hearing the audio and you're practicing at the same time, almost like a test is you can find an audio with a transcript and try reading the sentence yourself with your best English accent, and then you can read the sentence, or sorry, you read the sentence first. Recording yourself can be helpful so that you can actually hear. And then if you play the audio, it's kind of like, no, something is different. What am I doing? And it's a little bit of analysis. You can watch for common errors like pronouncing letters that should be silent, always paying attention to the ED at the end of the word. I know a lot of people, particularly I've noticed it with Spanish speakers and people that speak Portuguese. They have a very, very hard time with the ED at the end of a word. A word like stopped has a T sound. It's not stopped. And often when you're reading, you're looking at it and you're like, stop it. But if you're comparing how you're saying it with how we're saying it, you should be able to catch those errors and hopefully self-correct a little bit. So pay attention to which words have the emphasis in the sentence and where the stress falls on the word if it sounds different than the way that you're saying it. So that's kind of like another activity you can do, which is kind of like shadowing, but a little bit different. More of a, okay, let's see how I say it. No, I still don't have it. Okay, maybe I'll go back to shadowing. Okay, so this one here, I really, really like this website. It's called Lyrics Training, okay? And I discovered this website maybe a month ago, and I put it in the article that I published a couple weeks ago. And it is super, super cool. So I'm just going to show you here what it's like. Okay, so maybe I'll go here first, actually. So this is what the home page is like, and they have a lot of different music. They have current hits, things that are really, really popular. I think they have like 20,000 songs or something like that, and they all have the lyrics for these songs on this site. And it's just a really, really great site. You can create an account if you want, but you don't really have to. So I picked this one, Ed Sheeran, Shape of You, because it's a really, really popular song and a lot of people like it. And I like it, so I'm okay listening to it, 100 times while I try to show you the shadowing activity. And here you can create a free account, and it says the benefits here. And I don't want a free account, so I'm going to say maybe later. And just
isn't the best place to find the lovers, so the bar is where I go.
Okay, so here
Me and my friends is where I go.
you can rewind it.
Me and my
again,
where I go,
and again.
where I go. Me and my friends.
So it's really, really handy in that way that it's got the karaoke style letters here, and you're able to quickly rewind it without needing to install any software or anything. I'm not sure if there's a functionality to slow it down. No. In YouTube, with the actual video, you can actually slow it down 50% or 75%. And maybe what I'll do, let's just show you that. Okay, one sec here. Okay, Sharon. Okay, so let's go here. And you might not know this, so I'm just going to show it to you quickly. So if I'm here in this video,
Stop and the man on the jukebox me and trust me, I'll give it.
if you hit the back arrow on your keyboard, it goes back 7 seconds. Okay, so what you can do is you can go here to speed 75. I'm so happy YouTube added this. It wasn't there like 2 months ago, but they added the 75% speed, which doesn't distort the song as much. So we go to 75% speed. Now when we listen to it,
Chance now, take my hand, stop and then trust me, I'll give it a chance.
and you can go back. It goes back 3.5 seconds or something like that. So it's a really, really handy feature to be able to replay videos that you're doing this activity with. And okay, so going back here, so it's a really, really cool website. We've got, right now I'm in karaoke mode, and that's where it does this, where it plays the exact song and word as it's being sung. But I just want to show you quickly, this can also be used for listening training. And I'll just pick a different song instead of going directly to the link. I'll just go to this song of his. Okay, so here, beginner, you fill in 29 random words. So 10%, intermediate, there's more words you have to fill in, advanced, 50%, expert, I don't know, fill in all the words of the song. And it says, are you crazy? So it's a very, very hard challenge. But here, if we go to the beginner one, which I think is okay because it's a mix of music and listening at the same time. So you play start or press the start button. And oh, it doesn't let me skip ahead. So we're listening here when it actually starts. We're listening for this flashing dot. I found love, okay? Oh, we have to watch a movie with this song before he starts.
I found a love for me.
Oops, sorry, one sec. Okay, so I think he said I found a love. I didn't even hear it, so I'm not really sure, but we'll see. Oh. Oh, okay.
I found a love.
Yeah, I was right. I got it.
For me,
Okay.
darling, just
So it plays and then it stops and it's waiting, and I just have to type in. You can see here I got 1 point. Okay. So if I type in me,
darling, just dive right in.
okay, so we've got darling, just dive right in. So it's a really, really cool activity anyway. So I just wanted to take a minute to show you guys that. And then, so what we're gonna do here for this Ed Sheeran song is go over one part of the song that when I hear it, I'm like, oh my God, I wanna be able to learn how to sing this. That sounds so cool, okay? So it is going to be at the 35-second mark here. And we're just going to maybe start it here in the song, and I'll stop it around the 35-second mark. Actually, let me grab the lyrics for you guys at the same time. So here, print lyrics, here we go. So you can also get the lyrics for the song here, super easy. Oh, that's the wrong one, sorry. Okay, print lyrics. Okay, so we'll put this here. And then okay, there we are. So it looks like this is where the song starts. So I'll play it from here and we'll read along.
The club isn't the best place to find the lovers, so the bar is where I go. Me and my friends sat at the table doing shots, tripping fast, and then we talk slow. And you come over and start up a conversation with just me, and trust me, I'll give it a chance. Now take my hand, stop it, and the man on the jukebox, and then we start to dance. And now I'm singing like, girl, you know I want your love. Your love was handmade for somebody like me.
Okay, it's that last part, you know, when he really starts singing and it sounds super cool, like here. So, and now I'm singing like, girl, you know I want your love. Your love was handmade for somebody like me. And it is really fast, and there's a lot of sound linking that's going on with the words. So I'm just going to show you how I would isolate this to learn how to actually sing it like he's singing it, so that you can feel like English singing rock star or something like that. So we're going to do from here. Oh, one sec here. Okay, down a bit. Okay, so here, no, where's my tab? Okay, so here, sorry, the split screen is a little bit funny, but so I've got this part here, 35 to 38.5. Now remember, you're all on mute, so you can all sing and no one can hear you. You're only going to have to hear me if I decide to sing, and I'm not going to try. So 35.5 to 38. We're going to listen the first time. It's really important to hear the melody of how he's singing it, because it's not how we would say it normally, okay? So I'm just going to play it once at normal speed.
Now I'm singing like, girl, you know I want your love.
So you see how Audacity is super awesome, because we can be like from this point to this point, and to hear it again, I just click this.
Now I'm singing like, girl, you know I want your love.
Okay, so we can hear it now. Oh, I have to sing, see? Girl, you know I want your love. That's how she's saying it, right? Or he's saying it. So now that's going to be hard for you guys, probably to sing it flawlessly immediately. And what I would do if it's difficult is go to change tempo, drop down the speed, probably 40% to start, which makes him sound a little bit weird. It's really, really important in here that when you're going to, don't be tempted to go to change speed, because it'll drop the tone of the voice. So tempo is the one that controls the pace of the song, okay? So let's listen again, and we're going to be hearing these words right here, okay?
Now I'm singing like, girl, you know I want your love.
Okay, and what's really interesting in an activity that you guys could do as well is actually writing down what you hear instead of looking at the lyrics, where you know this is what he's saying, but how is he saying it? So this is where I'm going to suggest you learn how to sing this song in chunks by joining words together and pretending that they're not even proper English words. We're only going with the sounds. So here, we're going to do now I'm, okay? So now I'm, now I'm, now I'm. Not now I'm, now I'm, okay? Now I'm singing like. Okay, so you're going to practice that. Now I'm singing like. Okay, now I'm singing like. So you can say it like really fast. So practice the two words jammed together. Yeah. And then this part is really interesting. Girl, you know I. Girl, you know I. So girl, you know I. Girl, you know I. Just all the way through. Girl, you know I. And you're going to repeat that. Girl, you know I. Girl, you know I. Till you get it faster, faster. Up to his speed, because it's fast. So you need to learn it as like these 4 words are one word. Girl, you know I. just like that, okay? This part is really interesting. Want your love turns into want your love. You have to have the CH in there. So want your love. Want your love. So now I'm singing like, girl, you know I want your love. Okay, so it's got to all flow together, but it's a lot easier to practice a few words at a time strung together very, very quickly and pretending it's like one really long English word so that you can get the proper flow. So listen, when I play it again, I really want you to listen for this CH sound. Okay, so here we go.
Now I'm singing like, girl, you know I want your love.
Did you hear it that time? The CH, it's like, you know. So after that, what I usually do is I go to edit, I got it, I can do it 40% slower, but that's not very cool. I want to be able to sing this at 100% speed. So undo tempo change. This part's still highlighted, and then we can go to here, change tempo -20. Okay, -20 is still like kind of normal, and especially after slow-mo, it sounds a little bit more normal, but it's faster.
Now I'm singing like, girl, you know I want your love.
But it's still doable. This is like English learner pronunciation speed, okay? And then once we've mastered that and we're like, yeah, okay, I'm feeling confident, I'm stringing together these words nicely, these chunks of words together, and then you finally go undo tempo changes, and then we're ready to go. So
now I'm singing like, girl, you know I want your love.
So you have to do it at the same time. And the next part here, once you've mastered that part, we go from 38.5 to 41.5 right here. Okay, and this next part here is your love was handmade for somebody like me. And this is how I wrote it out. Your love was. So your love was is the first part that we're connecting together. Handmade, no D, handmade. Okay, very, very soft D. It's there, but it's a very, very soft D. So handmade for some, like the plus sign, some, for somebody like me. For somebody like me. Okay, so let's listen to this again. Oh, someone sent me a chat. Hang on, I just had to read it. Enter Sandman. Mohammed wants to listen to hard rock. Okay, I can arrange that. We can do Linkin Park too. But you have to do the yelling part, okay? I'm not going to do the screaming. So, okay, so here we go.
Your love was handmade for somebody like me.
Okay, so it really sounds, everything is super joined together. So, you know, when you get to the end here, after doing all of your work, you should be able to sing this perfectly on beat with all of these shortcuts and feel like you're really flowing. And what's really nice about it, if you've ever memorized a song before, it's like you feel so good when you're singing it and you just, you know, you nail it. You get the song and you're like, yes, I said it perfectly. So it's worth the work to do this if it's a challenging song that you really like. So this is the full part here, and it's going to be all of this.
Now I'm singing like, girl, you know I want your love. Your love was handmade for somebody like me.
Okay, so now I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second and activate everybody. Okay, so what do you guys think of my crazy learning how to sing songs in a very technical way? Mohammed, you vote for Metallica. I guess you don't like pop.
Yes. First of all, I have an opinion about the first video. I'm totally agree with Kadis Kennedy. It's kind it's in reminded me how to uh, i- uh, okay, I found a core of the learning language.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I I I got a main point about your accent is the problem. Yes, I I don't uh, focus in my accent, but in my priority is communication,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and my goal, my speaking is understand
To make it
understandable.
understandable. Uh-huh.
Understandable. Yes. Uh, yes. And I I got another point about mother tongue.
Mm-hmm.
And if I want fluent in my speaking, uh, I must. I, first of all, I want to make my own tip how to get my goals in shortcut. So it's an interesting point about mother tongue.
Mm-hmm.
If I want fluent in English, so I want pick my mother.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, uh, in my language, I remember is I remember how was a child.
Mm-hmm.
I learned my mother language,
Mm-hmm.
and then I want study in English same when I kid.
Mm-hmm.
So it is important to me how or who is pretend my mother. So I pick you and me
Mm-hmm.
as my mother. So
I
I
was just gonna say, oh, I'm like the English mother hen.
yeah. So I this I found a core. Yes, it's that uh, previously I can focus in when I learning language foreign language because I can found the core of the study
Mm-hmm.
and this video is more soft for me
Mm-hmm.
and the first task the first job if I success uh, reach my goal is so you uh, catch or you pick your own mother so
Mm-hmm.
you imitate her language how her pronunciation uh, and tongue twist and that's it that is the perfect point for me about no matter uh, your accent is bad. I don't hate my accent is
Mm-hmm.
bad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate my pronunciation is bad. Just I the first stage in my ways to study is uh, how my speaking is understandable.
Yeah,
That's my
understandable
point.
is the
It's
goal.
yes, and
Exactly.
yeah, and the last uh, thank you, Amy, about your lesson about Audacity. That's a tool. That's a great tool,
Mm-hmm.
and I I must try it. Audacity and pre-translation uh, uh, as you post to me, and that is my point. I have the core of the study language
Ah,
learning.
okay. Perfect. Well, I'm happy to be your English mama. I love that. That's funny. um, yeah, and I think that that's another thing that I just want to make a point about quickly. I hear people say, "Well, I want to learn through immersion," or "I'm just listening to the language a lot to try to improve my listening," and things like that. I think it's quite different when you're a child. I think that your brain is wired differently and you have no other means of communication. You don't have another language. It's like you either learn whatever other people are saying, and your mom is saying to you all the time, and she's correcting you all the time, saying things to you slowly on a level that you can understand. You know, it's like pen, pen, you know, do you want your bottle? Are you hungry? You know, like they're building your vocabulary from this big, and you have no other choice. So as adults, it's like, yeah, maybe it's possible, but it's pretty hard when you have another language, and you know, you can just like switch to that when things get uncomfortable. So just keep it in mind. I know a lot of people are trying to learn just by listening, but unless you open your mouth and let it come out, I honestly don't think that the accent is going to be practiced or perfect, because your original accent of your mother tongue is always going to take over, because that's what you've trained your mouth to do. So you still have to practice it. Even if you're listening and you're getting the exposure to it, which is important, you still have to practice it, because you're now trying to overpower your tendency and what you've learned. So that's kind of the last point that I wanted to mention about that.